When it comes to modern-day movies, CGI is always a huge element. Whether we like it or not, CGI has become as important as cinematography because of how blockbusters take over the market these days. However, one thing that sometimes happens is a really bad movie still somehow has great CGI. But have you seen any of them? Well, stay tuned to today's video as we discuss bad movies that had amazing CGI. First up is Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, 1999. We all know that Star Wars is well known for its phenomenal storytelling and world building, but CGI wasn't something they had originally messed with because George Lucas never had access to it. Yes, he went back and added a few things to the original trilogy, but these were not present in the original cinematic run of the first 3 Star Wars films. However, 16 years later, after the release of The Return of the Jedi, George Lucas came back to direct a brand new Star Wars film and begin a new trilogy. This is known as the prequel trilogy and began with The Phantom Menace back in 1999. And this time, George Lucas had CGI all over the place. He knew that this was some powerful stuff for storytelling and world building, especially when it came to something as fantastical as Star Wars. So he used all of the resources he had to put CGI in Star Wars to try and amplify things as much as possible. The release of The Phantom Menace offered a brand new look at the galaxy before the rise of the Empire, where a brand new, young Obi-Wan Kenobi, as well as his master, Qui-Gon Jinn, sensed to resolve a crisis on a planet by the name of Naboo. Thanks to the rise of computer graphics at the time, the Star Wars galaxy was finally able to be brought to life differently through CGI and dynamic effects. Unfortunately for Lucas though, however, whilst The Phantom Menace is still visually compelling to this day, its story and characters are far from captivating. The film relies too much on a complex trade negotiation storyline filled with bureaucratic red tape to fuel its conflict and ongoing storylines into the next few films. Whilst the audiences at the time might have found it boring and hard to follow, certain groups in the modern day have come to respect the film a little more, even if they agree it's not the greatest. Many of the actors in the project brought fantastic showcases of their acting skills to their roles, but a lot of them were wooden throughout. Actors such as Ewan McGregor and Ian McDiarmid brought some phenomenal acting to these characters and left a huge impact on the fanbase, but others such as Liam Neeson didn't exactly do the greatest. Up next is Avatar, 2009. In modern day, we just saw the release of Avatar: The Way of Water, and its CGI was mixed so perfectly with its compelling storytelling, the fans were almost surprised about it. Though the original film was a huge marvel at the time due to all of the CGI and effects that James Cameron threw into the project, the storytelling fell extremely short, and many people forgot what the overall plot was in the first place. Over a decade later, James Cameron came back to the franchise and announced several other sequels to the project as well. Avatar: The Way of Water is a perfect blend of CGI that encapsulates his audience, mixed with phenomenal storytelling that creates a compelling world alongside interesting characters. However, the original Avatar is far from this, as the story is pretty basic at best. In the far future, humanity is now attempting to mine a brand new resource on the planet by the name of Pandora, which then leads to a conflict with the native species. To keep mining the resources, the human race tried to improve diplomatic relationships with the native species, and scientists are brought aboard to make human bodies that resemble these native species by the number of avatars. They can transfer their minds into them to blend with the native species on the planet. However, when one scientist dies, his twin brother takes over his avatar and finds himself caught between 2 worlds. It's a very complex plot, and at the time, Avatar was praised for its ingenuity. However, Avatar is now a textbook example of a really pretty movie full of insane effects, but is flooded with little substance. Pandora might have breathtaking landscapes being created created entirely out of CGI through blue screen filming, but its characters fall extremely flat, and the story rips off plenty of better, other environmentally conscious films and native stories. Still, Avatar is a spectacle and showcases the power of CGI even back in 2009 with James Cameron at the helm. The project would grow to become the highest-grossing film of all time for many years. It would only be beaten out in 2019, a decade later. Avatar itself might be the perfect example of a bad movie with amazing CGI, as even back in 2009, Avatar looks phenomenal. So many films have been released in the last decade that looked nowhere near as good as Avatar, but that's probably because of the budget and time placed into its creation. James Cameron had been already making Avatar for well over a decade before it was released in 2009, but was waiting for the cameras and the technology to pop up so he could create his vision on screen. It would then take him another decade to make a sequel film, but it looks like we won't have to wait long for more sequels in the Avatar universe, as they have already announced several sequels coming in the next few years. Avatar 2 and Avatar 3 were filmed back to back, so we already know that another film is guaranteed to come, especially after the fact that Avatar: The Way of Water has grossed so highly around the world. What do you think about Avatar, as well as Avatar: The Way of Water? Let us know in the comment section below. And then we have The Last Airbender 2010. Here is a true example of a project that could have been perfect if done right. Back in 2005, we saw the original airing of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Nickelodeon. Though it was set to just be a normal Nickelodeon series, it quickly got a huge fan base across the world as it blended Eastern and Western philosophy and animation styles into one. Avatar was much more akin to something like an anime than a cartoon at the time, as it blended its funny and complex characters with animation that we hadn't seen over here in the West too much. Even to this day, Avatar: The Last Airbender is seen as one of the best pieces of animation and television throughout the world, and is even getting a few sequel movies set before its sequel series called The Legend of Korra. Avatar: The Last Airbender was very popular around 2010, and 2 years after the series had ended, M. Night Shyamalan released his live-action adaptation of the first season of the show. At the time, many people in the fan base were extremely excited, as M. Night Shyamalan is a very interesting director. Though he might not be known for some great films nowadays, he has made some phenomenal films throughout his time as a director. This meant that The Last Airbender should have been a smash hit all across the world, as it already had a built-in fan base, and the switch to live action offered a huge chance to blend the martial arts of the series with some beautiful CGI due to the technology at the time. Whilst the effects today are still extremely pretty in this film, the story falls extremely short thanks to a terrible script and various lifeless performances from the child actors. All of this is coupled with the fact that most of the characters' names are pronounced wrong, so it's hard to find any connection to the original series. It's like the writers just knew about the franchise and didn't look too deeply into it. They didn't care about pronouncing things right and just wanted to make a quick cash grab for one of the biggest directors at the time. It's a huge shame, but we do have a silver lining, as nowadays we are about to get a live-action adaptation of The Last Airbender once again through a Netflix television series. This time, it should have a bigger budget and should have much more care and attention placed on the story and plot. We have already seen various set photos from the last few years of filming, so we are extremely excited to see how this plays out. Hopefully this time it will be more story-driven rather than just focused on the beautiful CGI. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below about The Last Airbender and the awful storytelling it had. Lastly is The Lion King 2019. Following his successful remake of The Jungle Book, Jon Favreau was tasked with adapting The Lion King, the highest-grossing traditionally animated film. Except for the opening shot, the entire film was created inside a computer with impeccable detail. Although Disney marketed the film as a live-action remake, it is recognized as the highest-grossing animated film of all time. Despite this success, the film marks a turning point in audience reception to Disney's remakes. This is due to the film mirroring the original Lion King shot for shot, with only slight deviations that hinder the story and characters. While the CGI animals look impressive, the decision to limit their facial expressions causes them to appear emotionless, especially when compared to real animals. All of the films we have spoken about in today's video just show that CGI cannot carry a movie completely. Though in cases such as Avatar, it might be the huge gimmick behind the film and catapulted into such high status, when looking back at the quality of the film, the storytelling is what matters. Avatar is a prime example of this, as at the time, it was a huge marvel of a film, as it had phenomenal technology behind it and a huge director, but people forgot the plot extremely quickly, and the film sort of died down. Over the years, people look back at the film with fond memories, but mainly remember the 3D marketing as well as the CGI itself. All of the films we discussed in today's video are huge examples of why a script needs to be perfected before the CGI is even thought about. The CGI shouldn't be the grasp of the film, the plot itself should be. And that's all we have to discuss in today's video. Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hopefully you enjoyed this latest video. If you did, would you please let us know in the comment section below? It would be very helpful. Make sure to like the video, comment down below, and of course subscribe to the channel with the notification bell rung. Thank you for watching. Bye.